This is a pig. It weighs about 300 pounds. It roots through mud, eats scraps, and if you corner it, it might bite you. Might. Now imagine something with the same basic body plan. Hooves, snout, omnivore teeth, scaled up to the size of a bison. 1,650 pounds. A skull as long as your arm. Eyes that face forward. A jaw that can open wider than a hippo's. And bony plates bolted to its cheeks like armor. That is what people are talking about when they say, hell pig. But here's the thing. It was not a pig. It was not even close to a pig. The family it belonged to split from the pig lineage so long ago that its closest living relatives are hippos and whales. The name is wrong. The relationship is wrong. And the story most people tell about this animal, that it was some kind of prehistoric apex predator, a terminator pig, a demon hog, that's wrong too. The real story is stranger, and in a lot of ways, more unsettling. For roughly 20 million years, this family patrolled 2 continents. They started small, barely bigger than a peccary, in the forests of Eocene Asia. And by the time they were done, the last one standing was the largest land predator scavenger its ecosystem had ever produced. Its name is Daeodon, Greek for dreadful tooth, and nothing about it was normal. The single best Daeodon skeleton on Earth sits in the Carnegie Museum of Natural History in Pittsburgh. It was dug out of the agate fossil beds in Nebraska in 1905 and described that same year by the paleontologist Olaf Peterson, who, at the time, called it Dinohuus hollandi, Holland's terrible pig. We'll get to why that name didn't stick. What matters right now is the size of the thing Peterson pulled out of the ground. An adult Daeodon stood about 1.8 meters at the shoulder. Some individuals may have reached closer to 2 meters. That is the shoulder height of an American bison. The body was roughly 3 meters long, and the weight, based on the most defensible estimates, lands around 750 kilograms on average. Some individuals likely pushed past 1,000. So, bison height, small rhinoceros weight. That's the frame. But the frame is not what makes Daeodon strange. The head does. The skull is roughly 90 centimeters long. That is 35% of the animal's total body length. Bony ornaments jutted from the face. Broad plates of bone, the jugal flanges, projected downward and outward from the cheekbones, giving the skull a wide, armored look that no living mammal really shares. The flanges did 2 things. On the inside, they anchored the muscles that closed the jaw. The wider the anchor point, the more force the bite generates. Same trick used by kangaroos and some large rodents. On the outside, they were armor, and we know that because of what the skulls look like when you examine them closely. The jaw joint itself sits low, set back and below the level of the tooth row. This is the configuration you see in hippos and in dedicated carnivores. It allows an exceptionally wide gape. The maximum bony gape calculated for Archaeotherium is around 109 degrees. Equivalent figures for Daeodon have not been formally published, but the geometry is similar. For reference, a modern hippo can gape to about 150 degrees, but only because soft tissue lets it go further than the bone alone would allow. The eyes faced forward, not fully forward like a cat's, but enough to give a measurable degree of binocular overlap, stereoscopic vision. That means depth perception. In modern mammals, you see this in predators, but also in primates, bears, and arboreal browsers. By itself, it does not prove Daeodon was a hunter, but it does mean this was an animal that could judge distance, an animal that was actively tracking something. Pair that with the other defining feature of the skull, massive paranasal sinuses, and very large olfactory bulbs. An extraordinary sense of smell. The brain itself was small. Most of the brain case volume was taken up by those sinuses and olfactory structures. So what you have is an animal built to find things by smell and zero in on them by sight. Whether what it found was a carcass, a root system, or something still alive, that is the question the whole field has been arguing about. The teeth tell you more about Daeodon than any other part of the skeleton, and they tell you something complicated. The incisors are large and rounded, grabbing teeth. The canines are thick enameled, circular in cross-section, and in older individuals, they are often heavily worn or chipped at the tips, consistent with regular contact against hard material. The premolars are triangular, conical, widely spaced, designed for breaking tough objects apart. And the molars are bonodont, low, rounded cusps, the same basic molar design you find in pigs, bears, and humans. The teeth of a generalist, an omnivore. But one detail complicates the picture. The premolars in Daeodon show a distinctive wear pattern. The tips are worn flat, with a ring of chipped enamel around a smooth dentine core, a pattern similar to the premolar wear in modern spotted hyenas cracking bone for marrow. This means Daeodon was periodically applying massive bite force to something very hard. So which was it? Predator? Scavenger? Omnivore? Bone crusher? Start with the predator evidence. In 1999, a paleontologist named Kent Sundell described a site in the White River Formation of Wyoming that is still the single strongest piece of evidence for entelodont predation. The site contains the partial remains of at least 7 individuals of Pobrotherium, a small, early camel. 594 exposed bones on a single documented block. The skulls, necks, rib cages, and front legs are present. The hindquarters and pelvis are consistently missing, and the bones that remain bear large puncture marks whose diameter and spacing match the canines and premolars of an average-sized Archaeotherium. The interpretation is striking. An Archaeotherium was killing these camels, biting through the neck or back of the skull, severing the carcass roughly in half, eating the meaty hindquarters on the spot, and then caching the front halves in a single location for later. Front half caching is the opposite of what a scavenger does. Scavengers pick over whatever a predator leaves behind. They do not select the less desirable portion and store it. This is active predation followed by food hoarding, a behavior seen in modern, large cats, wolverines, and some canids. There is more. A Mericoidodont skull, a small herbivore, has been described with an Archaeotherium incisor still embedded in it. Puncture marks matching entelodont premolars have been found on rhinoceros skulls. Now, the scavenger argument. In 2001, a biomechanical study made the opposite case. Daeodon's body was not built for pursuit hunting. The head was too heavy. The turning radius would have been slow. The long legs allowed good sustained speed over open ground, maybe 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, but not the acceleration needed to chase down prey. The same features that made Daeodon look dangerous, the massive skull, the powerful bite, the keen sense of smell, actually made it an efficient intimidation scavenger. An animal that found carcasses by scent, arrived at the kill site, and used its sheer size and bite to drive off whatever smaller carnivore had actually made the kill. Scientists described them, memorably, as the T-Rex of the tertiary, meaning a top-level scavenger and opportunistic predator, not a dedicated pursuit hunter. And then, in 2023, the the most direct empirical evidence arrived. A team of scientists published a dental microwear analysis of European Entelodon magnus molars, calibrated against a dataset of 10 modern mammal species, including wild boars, brown bears, spotted hyenas, hippos, lions, and horses. The results? Entelodon's molar microwear overlaps statistically with that of the modern wild boar, a generalist omnivore eating roots, tubers, plants, and some animal matter. The study found no overlap with brown bears, no overlap with bone-cracking specialists. The authors concluded that Entelodon magnus probably did not actively hunt large mammals as part of its normal diet. Now, Entelodon is not Daeodon. It is an earlier European relative. And Daeodon's premolars show more carnivore-like wear than Entelodon's molars did in that study. But the microwear result is the most rigorous dietary evidence for any entelodont, and it points firmly toward a generalist omnivore, not a hypercarnivore. The honest answer, and the current scientific consensus, is this. Daeodon was probably an opportunistic omnivore in the ecological mold of a grizzly bear. It ate plants, roots, and tubers most of the time. It killed small or weakened prey when it could. It scavenged aggressively when carcasses were available. It cracked bone on occasion, but not as a dietary specialization. And it used its size to intimidate the rest of the predator community off their kills. A bully, a generalist, and something no living animal quite replicates. If the diet debate makes Daeodon complicated, the combat evidence makes it vivid. Adult entelodont skulls, especially those of Archaeotherium, which has the best behavioral fossil record of any entelodon, are covered in healed bite wounds, deep puncture marks, concentrated above the sinuses and around the snout. The wounds match the canine spacing of other individuals of the same species. They are found on adults, but not on juveniles, and they are healed, meaning the animals survived these encounters. This is intraspecific combat, males fighting males. The pattern is comparable to what you see in modern dromedary camels, where males bite each other's faces during mating season contests, or in hippos, where the enormous gape is used as a threat display, the famous yawning behavior, and fights involve slashing with the lower canines. Or in warthogs, where head-to-head shoving matches can escalate to biting. The facial flanges make sense in this context. They are largest in fully grown adults. They may show sexual dimorphism, bigger in males, though the sample size is small. And they occupy exactly the area of the skull that takes the most damage in these face-biting encounters. Muscle anchors, yes, but also shields. Bony armor plating that grew thicker with age, right where another Daeodon was most likely to bite. The wide gape that looks so menacing in museum reconstructions may have been used as much for threat yawn displays as for any feeding function. Open your mouth as wide as it goes, show your canines, and dare the other animal to escalate. If it does escalate, you bite down on the face, aiming for the sinuses, the snout, the soft tissue around the eyes. The flanges absorb some of the impact. You survive. You fight again. Rib cage injuries attributed to intraspecific aggression have also been described in Archaeotherium. These were not gentle animals, and the fossil record suggests they were solitary ones. At agate fossil beds, the single richest early Miocene mammal locality in North America, thousands of bones from rhinos, camels, chalicotheres, and oreodonts have been excavated. Daeodon fossils are rare. In a bone bed dominated by herding animals that died together during droughts, the entelodonts show up one at a time. The best supported interpretation is that adult Daeodon, especially males, were largely solitary and territorial. They came together to fight over mates, dominance, or access to resources, water sources, carcasses, territory, and otherwise kept their distance. 750 kilograms of solitary, territorial, face-biting omnivore with a skull like a battering ram and a temperament that left scars in the fossil record. That is Daeodon. So, about the name. In 1878, a paleontologist found a scrap of jawbone in Oregon and thought it belonged to something completely different. He named it Daeodon, dreadful tooth, filed it away, and moved on. 27 years later, a different team pulled a near-complete skeleton out of the ground in Nebraska, one of the best-preserved large mammals anyone had ever found. They had no idea it was the same animal. They called it Dinohyus, terrible pig. That is where the word pig entered the story. And it never left. It took 120 years, 3 different names, and generations of paleontologists arguing over fragments to figure out that all of these specimens were the same species. The scrap of jaw from 1878 was named first, so under the rules, its name wins. Daeodon, not terrible pig, dreadful tooth. And the pig part was always wrong anyway. The same wave of DNA research that proved hippos are the closest living relatives of whales also proved that entelodonts have nothing to do with pigs. They are on the hippo whale side of the family tree, closer to a humpback whale than to anything in a farmyard. That is the animal that disappeared around 18 million years ago. The world it lived in was already falling apart. The forests and mixed woodlands that had sustained entelodonts for 20 million years were thinning. Open grassland was spreading across the interior of North America, and a 700-kilogram omnivore that relied on dense vegetation and seasonal waterholes had fewer and fewer places to go. At the same time, a new wave of predators was crossing over from Asia, the bear dogs, faster, more social, probably smarter. They filled the same scavenging and opportunistic hunting role that Daeodon had occupied, and they did it in packs. The grasslands spread, the forests shrank, the competition got worse, and Daeodon, solitary, slow to reproduce, built for a world that no longer existed, vanished. The entire family went with it. 20 million years, gone, and nothing replaced them. Bears eventually took over the large omnivore role. Bone-crushing dogs inherited some of the scavenging niche, but no animal since has combined the full package: a body built like a bison, a jaw that could crack bone, a gape wider than a hippo's, armor bolted to its face, and the temperament to use all of it. The hell pig was not a pig. It was not from hell. But for 20 million years, nothing wanted to meet one.